What's up, scholars? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Sabaody. This arc did not go the way I was expecting it to go. It went south so fast and it got bad so fast. Even though this was a small arc, so much happened in this arc. So much was revealed. We got some huge revelations in this arc. A lot revealed to us. We also got a lot of new characters revealed to us. And then Oda, being Oda and the loving author that he is, just decides to put his readers in so much pain. I cried. Again. I have officially lost count of how many times this story has made me cry, and it's quite unfair. But for those of you who saw my live reading of when I read chapters 498 to 502, y'all kind of saw some of my general impressions of how I was feeling about the arc at the time, especially where I was at. I literally ended that reading literally right before everything went to crap. So chose a great stopping point because when I picked it up to read, I was still feeling the hype from, you know, Luffy punching the dragon, and it went downhill. It just kept going downhill from there, and I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm upset. I'm very upset with this arc. Let's just go ahead and talk about it because I have a lot I want to talk about. I have a lot of new theories that I really want to discuss, but the character work in this arc shined. It shone so much, especially with Luffy. This was Luffy's arc through and through. If there's one person who kind of shared this arc with Luffy, to me, it was either Sanji or Zoro. Those three just wow. Okay, but yes, let's go ahead and get into it because there's a lot that happened in this arc that we just need to talk about. Because when we first got into this Sabaody arc, I thought we were gonna have just another nice simple arc that was gonna lead into maybe the next one, that we were gonna go somewhere before we go to Ace. I was wrong. Luffy still doesn't even know about Ace, and I'm very upset. Sabaody started off with this whole character of Duvall being introduced, and at first I was very unsure of where this was going. I thought that maybe Duvall, with what they were saying, was someone that we had met in the past that maybe like had personal beef with like Sanji or Luffy. I thought maybe like Don Krieg, because of like the beef he had with Sanji and Luffy from like Barati. But no, I was very, very wrong. That whole reveal of Duvall was crazy, but I'm skipping ahead. Before we get to Duvall, we meet Kami the mermaid, who falls so lovingly right on top of Sanji, who is overjoyed with finally meeting a mermaid of his standards. So you know what? Good for you, Sanji. I'm very happy for you. But we get Kami the mermaid introduced, and Papa... I still can't say his name right. I tried to say it the other day and I still can't get it right. Papagu, the little starfish guy. We get introduced to them, and they kind of fit into our crew pretty easily. Kami is like super laid back and very chill about things, but she wants the Straw Hats to help her friend who is in danger of being sold into slavery, which I'm gonna get into that in a minute. And she was asking the Straw Hats to help her friend. They agree in exchange of giving them information of how to get to Fishman Island. But her friend's not just any old person. No. It's Hachi from Arlong's crew. And when I tell you, I was not expecting to even see that like crew specifically ever again. Also, especially not that character. I was not expecting to see Hachi again. And then let me tell you, I never thought I would be so thoroughly in love with Hachi. Like, I love this character. I wouldn't have expected that I would be able to love this character, but I do. But yes, it's Hachi, one of the people who tormented Nami all of those years. And Nami still agrees to save him, even after finding out who he is. Which, first of all, shows Nami's growth of how far she's come from the whole incident with Arlong, how she's not afraid to even like be around them anymore or see them again, but she's able to be like, no, we still need this information, so I'm okay saving him to use him. That's great. I really like that because that was a solidifying moment of Nami's growth of how far she's come since that incident. And so they save Hachi, they save Cammy, and these flying fish, Rosy Life Riders, whichever one they're called, they keep changing their name, reveals that their leader, Duvall, has personal beef with Sanji because he looks exactly like Sanji's wanted poster. I thought it was a joke at first. I was just like, did he like plaster like the wanted poster on his face just to like irritate Sanji? Like, there's no way that's actually his face. And it was. And I love Luffy's reaction to it because when he first sees Duvall's face and he's just like, no guys, like, you'll get it in a little bit. I can't even say anything, you'll understand. And as soon as Sanji figures it out, Luffy's like, you know what? It's all on you, man. You can figure it out yourself. You can handle this. Because even Luffy thinks it's so absurd that Duvall has the same face as Sanji's wanted poster. It was so funny. But yes, Sanji ends up beating Duvall's face into a different face shape so that they stop having these problems and he can stop being so ridiculous about this. And because Sanji rearranges his face, Duvall is now feeling very indebted to Sanji and decides to devote their entire crew to him so that if they ever need something, Sanji can give him a call. Which I was like, that's fine, that's cool. I'm probably never gonna see them again. Again, I was very wrong. We saw them again this arc. And they actually played a very good, vital role for the time being, for when we needed them. Before I move on, there is a little spot I missed. Brook can put people to sleep with his music, but it's not only enemies he can put to sleep. I don't know if it's just like you have to be susceptible to it because he put Luffy to sleep instantly or what it is, but that's really cool. But then we get Hachin and he's running a takoyaki shop, which he's an octopus selling takoyaki. I guess that's fine. We actually get more in depth with Hachi a little bit as they're on their way to Sabaody because they can't just automatically go to Fishman Island or else the pressure from underneath the water will literally crush them all, including the ship. So they have to get their ship coded before they can go to Fishman Island, and Hachi is going to take them there. Which, the fact that Hachi was so willing to take them there, even though he knew the price of what taking them there could mean for him and for Cammy, but he did it because he wanted to make up to Nami just a little bit everything that he had done to her, or even like sat complicitly and watched happen to her. Back in Arlong Park, Hachi was probably my, like, of those group of villains and antagonists, Hachi was like the one I had the least problems with. I didn't mind him as much. He was kind of a little goofy, a little silly. I mean, he was still a bad person, a bad character, but he didn't strike as much like anger in me as perhaps Arlong, for example. But he was still complicit in the fact that he let Arlong do whatever he wanted to Nami. But seeing Hachi in this new perspective, knowing what happens, is just... the man cares a lot, and he cares a lot about trying to right his wrongs. And I appreciate that so much in character works, especially when you're working towards a redemption arc for someone, and Hachi has earned it. But when they get to Sabaody, Hachin makes Luffy promise him immediately as they're going into inland, which already made me know that something bad was gonna happen, because you don't make promises like this if something bad that's gonna like make them want to break that promise is gonna happen. But he basically says you cannot act even if someone gets killed in front of you. You cannot draw attention to yourself. You cannot harm these world nobles, these celestial dragons, because if the celestial dragons are harmed, they can call in an admiral. So that really set the tone of what we were about to walk into, and I knew this was not going to be as nice of a place as I thought, because Sabaody looks absolutely stunning. It is beautiful. The bubbles, the light airy feeling, the pretty mangroves, all of it is just beautiful and just aesthetically pleasing to look at. It's a gorgeous little mangrove, like bunch of mangroves. But it is such an awful, awful, awful place. Horrible place. Because of these celestial dragons. These world nobles are first... Y'all saw me get so mad during the live reading because of one of the celestial dragons. I'm still not over. I still have so much anger for them. And I get it. They are great antagonists. They are great villains. They really are, because you want to root against them. You have this anger and this hatred for them because you see the atrocities that they do, and the fact that people think, oh well, nobody can touch them, makes it even worse. So yeah, I mean, they're great villains, but I don't like them one bit. The first experience we see with celestial dragons is the exposure to the explosive collars, which a pirate has a collar on his neck and all he wants to do is go home to his family, and the collar explodes, severely injuring or killing him. And he falls, and these two celestial dragons, these world nobles, come up and they just shoot him again and again, just desecrating a body at that point. He's desecrating a body, but they don't even see him as human. And Hachin has to stop Luffy. Of course Hachin has to stop Luffy, because Luffy is angry just seeing that, but Hachin reminds me, he's like, no, this is part of that promise. This is why this promise is put in place. But these celestial dragons aren't just horrible, horrible people. They're direct descendants of the people who founded the world government, of that kingdom who founded the world government. They are direct descendants of them, which interests me a lot. I am very fascinated by the fact that the celestial dragons are direct descendants, because they have to know something about the history. They have to know something about history. Of course, they've taken advantage of the whole situation and they're absolutely awful people now, but the fact that they are in the direct lineage of the founders of the world government, that is highly, highly interesting, and I'm really waiting to see where this goes, because this could go in a lot of different directions, and I want more answers. But this is when we're really exposed to the true horror of Sabaody, and it's that human trafficking and slavery is commonplace, that the government condones it, the Navy turns an eye to it and lets it happen, as there are human shops where people can come and buy or sell people to use however they want. I never thought One Piece was gonna go into human trafficking. We've seen a lot of dark themes in One Piece so far, like, don't get me wrong, like, I know One Piece has the capability of diving into darker themes and darker topics and talking about them, but human trafficking in general is a topic that not a lot of books, not a lot of shows, not a lot of any sort of media really delve into, because it is such a heavy topic, and it's a topic that means a lot to me personally, and just to see it actually be explored, and it's shocking, but at the same time, I'm so glad Oda didn't shy away from it, because it does expose even more of like just the darkness of humanity, the darker side of humans' hearts, of how corrupt a person can be to take another person and sell them and not think anything of it other than they're getting money or they're getting an object. This was probably the most shocking of the darker themes to me, just because of the media I've consumed, at least. Even if human trafficking is mentioned, a lot of the times it's not dug into. You don't actually like delve into it or see some of the actual happenstances of said trafficking or anything like that. It's just more kind of like mentioned, or you see a person who was, or something of that sort. But Oda really hits the nail on the head with this, and just really just rips the curtains open and says, here it is. And to couple that with slavery is just, that was a heavy hitter for me. That was really hard to read. The group that is on the island, which is everybody but Sanji, Usopp, and Frankie, who are back on the ship. Frankie and Usopp are kind of repairing the ship. Sanji's there to guard Nami's gold, but everybody else is able to get to Shaki, who we meet, who is one of the people that Hachin knows that can help them out. She is really cool, by the way. She's a really cool character, just very nonchalant. We get the knowledge that the man who does the coding itself, Rayleigh, is missing. He's been missing for half a year, because why not? And that's when we get introduced to just a whole ton of people, the 11 supernovas. It's these 11 like elite rookie pirates that have all made it to Sabaody. They've all gone through all the different routes on the Grand Line and have made it here all at the same time, which is ridiculous but awesome. But I got name dropped so many people all at once. I had to write them all down. I have them on my phone. We get Law, Kid, Bonnie, Drake, Basil, Gang, Scratchman, Eroge. I think I'm saying that right. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Eroge? Side point, Eroge is from Sky Island, from Skypia. I have thoughts on that. But then we have Killer, and then of course Luffy and Zoro. So those are the 11 supernovas, and my goodness, there's so many. There's so many new characters now. Oda just like dropped them all on me, and it's fine. Interesting note, Kid has a higher bounty than Luffy because he has no discrepancies against who he attacks. He pillages innocent villages and attacks innocent people, while Luffy and his crew don't typically do that. If my hatred for the celestial dragons wasn't enough already, this panel solidified my hatred for the celestial dragons when that one noble was riding a human through the streets like he was nothing more than a horse or a donkey. Just horrible. And then he sees a random woman and decides that he's gonna make her his like 13th wife, and then shoots her fiance because her fiance is like, wait, no. This is not a good scene. And then of course Zoro stumbles upon the situation because he decided to take off. And yeah, Zoro doesn't know about the whole celestial dragon business of what happens if you attack a celestial dragon. And he's about to, but Bonnie saves him. And I figured it out because when she first saves him, Zoro's like, huh, a kid? But then it's her and she's just normal size, and I was really confused. I was like, is Zoro just that bad at like perceiving people's ages or something? I mean, he's that bad at directions, maybe. But no, Bonnie's devil fruit, she can manipulate age. That, first of all, that is so cool. That reminds me of Terako from Bungo Stray Dogs. And I really, really like that. That's super cool. Messing with age is such a fascinating ability because we don't see it very often. I like Bonnie. And I love that Bonnie basically saves Zoro and everybody else from bringing an admiral there at that moment. And then she's surprised at Zoro for wanting to help out this fiance that was shot. Even though she was like, well, I've never heard of a pirate saving anybody, even though she just stepped in to save him and everybody else. I know she had like, yes, she was saving herself, so a lot of it was for her own benefit, but she still went out of her way to save Zoro. So I don't know. I think there's a little bit of a little more good in her than she's letting on. But I don't know enough about her yet to say for sure. But then Kami is kidnapped and she's to be sold at an auction hall. Sanji gets the call from Chopper and he calls in the Rosy Life writers. He calls in Duvall and they're able to start directing them towards the auction hall. They're searching everywhere to figure out like who took her and how they can get her back. And they're on, it's now a rescue mission. And as they're looking for Kami, Luffy ends up going with Hachin and Papagu into one of the human shops. And that panel just like made my stomach drop, just being in there and seeing how the humans, how they were just chained up in these glass prisons and the owner talking about them as if they weren't human, they were subhuman. It felt like you were going into a pet shop, but it wasn't. It was humans. It was, ugh. Okay, but Luffy, all of them are trying to find Kami, and Luffy ends up reassuring both Papagu. I keep saying Papagu. I don't think I'm saying that right. Starfish guy and Hachin. He says all three of you are our friends now, which. The fact that Luffy has fully accepted Hachi as a friend, even knowing his history with Nami and like knowing that they had fought before, means so much. I love Luffy. The fact that he's like, no, like we are friends now. Don't worry about it. We're gonna get her back. This is not your fault. It's not your fault that she was having fun, okay? It's not their fault that she was taken. He said, don't worry, we're gonna get her back. I love that. But then at the same time, we were getting the history of this place from Robin, how mermaids and fishmen were seen as just fish, classified as fish, and they were hunted and persecuted just for being who they were and for being different. And even though a lot of it was banned and outlawed on Sabaody, it was still widely accepted and nobody has a problem with it. So Kami is at Grove 1 in the auction hall, and as they're getting ready to start the auction, Kid and Law are there, randomly, or not so randomly, I don't know what they were doing there. They were just enjoying the show, I guess. But we get behind the scenes where Kami is getting just abused by Disco and everything as she's struggling because she doesn't want the collar on. And then this Disco guy just suddenly drops because Rayleigh is there. He knows hockey and used his hockey to drop Disco. But Rayleigh is the first mate, the first mate, the captain's right hand, the right hand of Goldie Roger. What? First of all, that brought so many questions to my mind because it's like I didn't even know that like his crew was still alive, and now we know that they are, and it's not just Rayleigh that's alive. There could be several other members of Goldie Roger's crew that's alive. I mean, I know like Shanks and Buggy are alive, but, like they were apprentices. I'm talking about like the older members of the crew. They could be alive. That means we could see them and meet them in the future. Rayleigh automatically like became one of my favorites in this arc just purely because of how much this man knows, of how much of like a prodigy this man is. Basically, he's a living legend. just being Goldie Roger's right-hand man because he had to be on the same level as Roger or more, depending. It makes me so excited. But yes, he's just randomly there, just chilling, letting himself get sold because he was either going to like take money off the person who bought him and like dip, or just steal as much money as he could because he had gambling debts. So, you know, he was just chilling. He was having fun. Then it switches to Garp talking about how they know Rayleigh is on Sabaody, but Garp's basically telling them they like ignore that he's there. We have bigger problems to handle right now because they're facing off with a legend at the moment, because there are newspapers going around revealing Ace is to be executed. You know, after this arc ended, I don't know how much hope I can have for things going well. I am so worried about Ace because Whitebeard is going to war. The whole Whitebeard pirates are going to war for Ace against the government. And Luffy still doesn't know his brother is going to be executed. He still doesn't know. So there's a war brewing in the background of all of this, and we learn later on that all the 7 warlords have been called to fight Whitebeard's crew. They all get to Grove 1, save for like Luffy and a couple others, and Nami decides that she's going to play by their rules and buy Kami back themselves because she's got like 200 million berries stored up on the ship, and she's like, no, I'm just gonna buy her back. Which, yes, Nami, I love you. The fact that she's usually so stingy with money because she knows the power of money. And I really like one of I can't remember who said it, but in my video that I did when I was reading the chapters, somebody commented about Nami and how her view on money is that she's always hoarded it because she knows what she knows the value of money. She knows what it could do and how it can be used to like save someone. And this is exactly the type of situation that this money would be used for, and that it's for a good reason. And she's not just a selfish person who likes to hoard money. Like, that's part of it, but that's not the only reason. She has this money for times like this when money is the answer. And I really liked that. It's a really good point to make about Nami's character, and I really enjoyed that. And I love, this is a little side point, but I love as the other Straw Hats are inside, Kid sees the Straw Hat crew and he's just like, oh, well, their captain's not there. I want to see like how crazy their captain is because he's heard all these rumors. And I love it because of what Luffy's first impression is whenever he gets there is fantastic. Before Luffy gets there, Kami goes up for sale and the Celestial Dragon outbids them instantly by like 500 million. That's what he offers. And they can't compete against that because they don't have that. But before Kami can get sold, Luffy comes crashing in on one of those flying fish and disrupts everything and instantly tries to go to Kami. He is running towards her, screaming that Kami is not for sale. Like, she's our friend. She's not an object you can sell. And Hachi is trying so desperately to stop him because he's still trying to avoid conflict. It gets to the point where Hachi has to end up basically exposing himself as an octopus just to be able to stop Luffy from running forward. And then Hachi starts getting just verbally assaulted and like people are scared of him. They're yelling at him. And then a shot goes off. And that same Celestial Dragon who was riding a human shot Hachi. I knew in that moment, I was like, that is the moment you messed up completely. That is your funeral. There is no going back from now. It does not matter what promise Luffy made. You hurt somebody Luffy cared about. It's over for you. It's over. But as Luffy is going up, he gets stopped by Hachi, who is still trying to get him to stay calm and stay out of it. And Hachi blames himself. He's like, I'm always the screw up. I'm always the one that's doing something wrong. It's all my fault. And the fact that he says that he was just doing this to make it up to Nami for everything that he's done. It hurt so much. It hurt even more on reread. Honestly. It hurt even more reading it again. But Luffy, despite Hachin's begs and pleas, Luffy walks up those stairs and delivers the most satisfying punch I have ever seen in manga or anime. Because I did watch that moment in the anime. That was a fantastic punch. I love the way they did that in the anime, by the way. It was great. One of the most fantastic punches, well-deserved punches ever, sends that dragon flying, and he's down for the count. And I love that Luffy didn't use any of his gum powers. He just was straight up hands, popped him, and that was all it took. Luffy also realizes the repercussions for what he just did, and he turns to his crew and is like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry for what I did. I know we're gonna have, like, the government on us now. Like, whoops. Like, an admiral's coming. I'm sorry. But his crew is so chill about it. They're just like, what can you do? You know, Zoro's like, oh, well, you beat me to it. Nami's like, well, that's Luffy. That's our captain. They're all so on board with what Luffy was doing because, first of all, I think they all felt the same way. And second of all, they're so used to what Luffy does that they have his back no matter what he decides to do. Even if it's declaring war on the government or on the Navy or whoever it is, they are with him 100%. And I love it. I love this crew. And Kid did get to see how crazy Luffy is. Luffy literally crashed an auction and punched a celestial dragon and then was like, alright, let's dip. I love that because Kid's like, I'm satisfied. But then Rayleigh comes in, knocks out everybody else as they started to fight, frees Kaney, and there he's like, alright, like, we got a lot to talk about, but we gotta do this elsewhere, because he looked at Luffy and was like, I have been wanting to meet you for a long time because of Shanks. I know it's just like a tiny little moment, but it made me laugh so much because it's just like, yes, the comeuppance that are coming to these celestial dragons is very, very heartwarming. When Usopp just falls through and lands on the other celestial dragon, that, yes, I liked that very much. And then we get this really unlikely trio going out to fight the Marines that are already gathered around the hall of Law, Kid, and Luffy, because none of them want to do what the other is telling them to. None of them want to like be like, oh, well, we'll let this other pirate save us or protect us or anything like that. Kid and Law have some very interesting powers. Law I am more interested in just because he seems a little bit more like Luffy, like Luffy-esque. Of course, he's not like Luffy, like, completely. But some of the things he does kind of reminds me of, like, oh, that he would fit with our crew a little bit. So they're all fighting. Their devil fruits are really cool. And then we get introduced to this polar bear, Beppo. So adorable. He's part of Law's pirate crew, which I can't say is unnormal because, you know, we got a reindeer on our crew. Why can't somebody else have a polar bear? You know, that's fine. It's cool. We got a polar bear. Awesome. But the polar bear can fight, so that's even better. They end up getting back to Shacky's. And that's when they figure out that Rayleigh was part of Goldie Roger's crew. And he was not just part of it, he was the first mate. He was the right-hand man of Goldie Roger. And that he knew about Luffy because of Shanks, and because Shanks was saying that Luffy was saying the exact same words as Roger. What a symbolism and how everything connects. I love it so much. Robin stands up and asks if he knows about the Will of D. And he says yes. But we don't get the answer. I like screamed no when Rayleigh said that he wasn't gonna tell us, because not only does he know what the Will of D is, which I have been like dying to know since the very first saga, not only does he know what that is, he knows the true history of the blank like 900 years of history and how everything was founded and what all happened. He knows everything. And We didn't learn a single thing. I'm so upset. I'm so upset about that. Basically, it's I feel like Oda laughed at me. I think Oda laughed at me specifically for this moment because because he was basically like, "Oh, I can't tell you now. That would spoil the rest of the series for you. You have to read along. You have to go on these travels in order to find out." I get it, but why? Why? Like I can know the full history. I can know what the Will of D is and still enjoy the journey. I don't have a problem with it. I just want to know what it is. I need to calm down. I'm getting way too worked up about this. Essentially, Rayleigh is like, either I can tell you or you can decide to figure it out on your own. Robin ends up deciding that she's gonna figure it out on her own. But he says that as they find the answers, they might come to a different conclusion or a different answer than they did. So I don't know if it means like the true history can be interpreted in a different way. If the Will of D can be interpreted separately depending on who's looking at it, on who's deciphering it. I have even more questions now than I did before I got into this arc. Of course, Usopp is like me as always and wants to know like what the One Piece is, if the One Piece is real. Luffy shuts him up real quick because I do respect Luffy's decision on this because, you know, he's like, I'm not going to go on an adventure that's no fun. There's no like mystery or surprise to it. That's part of the reason he's being a pirate, is to go after this mystery, this adventure, and he doesn't want that to get ruined by knowing whether something's real or not, which I get. It's very respectable. But we also get a lot of truth about Roger, that he actually turned himself in to the Navy because he had a terminal illness that couldn't completely be healed. But they had a doctor on their ship, Crocus, from all the way with Laboon. It was set up all the way back there that we met another one of Goldie Roger's crew members. This arc took me through a lot of emotions. A lot of it was just pure frustration because of how good Oda's storytelling is and how I just want all the answers, and he mocked me for wanting the answers. But it's fine. It's fine. But yes, Crocus was part of their crew and kind of helped Roger for as long as he could. He even went out to look after Brooke and to see if they could find Brooke while they were out there because of Laboon. Roger did turn himself in, but the Navy didn't want them to lose face, so they pretended like they captured him. And Roger intentionally started the Age of Pirates, the era of pirates, because he believed in that essence of adventure and starting something new, of having something carry on long after he was gone. And I love that. I want to learn more about Roger now. I am so interested and invested in him now as a character. About the whole poneglyph situation, and when Robin asked like how his writing, like he wrote in the language of the polygraph, how did he know how to do that? And Rayleigh says he heard the voices of the universe. Now what on earth is that supposed to mean? Because Oda, I got some questions. I need to ask you. We need to have a conversation. I need to have a conversation. Rayleigh is like a bucket of wisdom that we only took a sip out of instead of just guzzling the whole thing, and it's fine. All things come with due time, and it's not time for us to learn yet, I suppose, and I'm just gonna have to live with that at this point. Things start going south because the Admiral is called to the island by the Celestial Dragons, but we also get information that Doflamingo was the one who owned the auction hall. So he, as a warlord, participated in human trafficking and slave trade, so that's good to know about his character. But he said he's the one who gave us the information that these 7 warlords were going to fight Whitebeard. Don't know any more about that. But then, yes, the Admiral, Kizaru? Yeah, Kizaru arrives. He is just OP. He is overpowered. He is made of light. He ate the light fruit, and nothing can touch him. Apparently, like bullets go through him. Nothing can harm him. He can like teleport himself through like the light fracture thingies, mirrors, to get to somebody else. That's terrifying. He can kick people at the speed of light and take down an entire mangrove in one kick. So yeah, his arrival just made things start going south. So you have Law and Kid fighting a version of Kuma that isn't really Kuma. It's like a duplicate of Kuma. PX1, PX2, 3, 4, 5, how many there are, I have no idea, but whichever one of the numbers it is, they're fighting one of them. You have Drake and Basil ending up fighting against Kizaru. I keep seeing Kizaru. And I mean, they do have very interesting powers. I don't know what Basil's power is. It's like a little like vine demon thing. I'm not sure, but it's cool. And then Drake can turn into a T-Rex. So that's really cool. More dinosaurs. So yes, I love the continuity. We're sticking with dinosaurs and I'm okay with that. I'd love to see it. And then we get more copies of Kuma showing up along with Sentomaru, who is the bodyguard of Dr. Vegapunk, which is who we know made Kuma. So a lot going on in the last part of this arc. And it all happens so fast. But our crew is getting destroyed. Like, nobody's faring well against this attack. Like, first of all, nobody can beat Kizaru. And everybody's struggling against all the little Kumas. It's bad when our crew goes all out from the very beginning and they are just scraping by to try to get a win. Because Sanji is still injured from Thriller Bark. He hasn't fully recovered from that. The only one who knows about it is Sanji. Brook knows as well. But Sanji knows. And he is constantly looking for he's constantly looking for Zoro. He's constantly worried about him. He's always checking to see like what Zoro's doing, if he's all right. And the moment Zoro collapses from taking a hit, and Luffy's like, what do you like? How could one hit knock you down, Zoro? Like, this isn't like you. And Sanji recognizes instantly like what's going on. That he's not in his best shape because of everything that happened on Thriller Bark, which I know nothing happened, but everything happened. And Sanji's just like, Luffy, let's focus on Kuma. Don't worry about him. We'll get him taken care of later. And Luffy noticing and instantly recognizing that something wasn't right with Zoro. He knew, because he knows Zoro so well. He knows Zoro is so strong, he's capable, and he knows Zoro doesn't go down in a fight like that. And to see his first mate go down like that was so out of character, and it worried Luffy right off the bat, and it made Luffy recognize the kind of situation they were in. But they finally take down that one Kuma, the PX4, I believe. But they don't even get a chance to rest or take a breather like they desperately need, because Sentomaru comes with another Kuma and they start trying to gang up on the Straw Hats. And Luffy tells them to run. This is the first time Luffy has told all of his crew to run away from a fight. The fact that Luffy recognizes that these are opponents that they cannot beat right now, that as they are, they cannot beat them, first of all shows immense growth and understanding of the situation on Luffy's part, but at the same time, that fear and desperation that just radiates from Luffy really sets the tone for what's about to happen. Because they're all splitting up. Sanji, Nami, and Frankie are going off. Usopp, Zoro, and Brook is in another group, and Luffy, Chopper, and Robin are another group, and they're trying to separate. I do love that Usopp clinging to Zoro, and Zoro's like, hey, like, I'm not in good shape right now. I'm not as strong as I usually am. And Brook to be the one, because he saw what happened on Thriller Bark, and he tells Zoro, I saw what happened, don't worry, I've got your back. Sentomaru ends up being a huge problem for Luffy. He is strong even though he doesn't have a devil fruit power, but he uses some sort of defensive power or something of the sort because he's fighting Luffy and Luffy is at a loss. Luffy is almost helpless in front of Sentomaru. And as they're all splitting up, Zoro gets attacked by Kizaru and gets shot to the ground, pretty much. I got a little scared. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little scared because I didn't know what was gonna happen to Zoro in this moment. I didn't know what was going on. I thought they might have killed him in this moment, but Rayleigh came in to save him. And I love that panel where when Luffy realizes that Rayleigh, first of all, Rayleigh's able to deflect Kizaru's light and everything, and he can physically touch and fight him. I have questions about that. But when Luffy sees Rayleigh is the one who saves Zoro, Luffy already has tears in his eyes, and he just, like, I mean, he says old man, and he's just like it's you saved him. You can just see that relief in his face. His face says everything. And this is the point where Luffy's desperation just goes into overdrive. He is so desperate for them all to run away. He's ordering them to run, to get away as fast as they can, because he realizes just how severe of a situation they're in, what could happen if they're not careful here. If they cannot get away, what's gonna happen to them is not good. And as they're all trying to run away, the little PX-1 Kuma is going after Usopp and Zoro because Zoro is on the brink of death. And Sanji sees this because he's got his eye on Zoro, and he leaves Nami. We have never seen Sanji willingly leave Nami or rather any of them behind to go help somebody else, because he's always made them his top priority. Their safety is his top priority. And Zoro is now that priority because he has such respect for Zoro, and he knows exactly the kind of pain that Zoro is in right now. He knows what damages Zoro has taken. And he goes off to help him. And he does everything he can to stall Kuma or buy time, even to the point where he is sacrificing himself, pushing Usopp out of the way, saying, like, you idiot, keep running, get out of here, taking on the full hits himself just to give his friends time to escape. And I love this about Sanji because it's always been true about him that he always says that he only protects the women, and usually if the women are around, he does normally stick by them to protect them. But he's never abandoned anybody on the crew. We saw it in Skypia. I mean, we saw it before that, really, but we saw it in Skypia when they were going to save Nami from Enel, and you know, he was saying, oh, well, I'm only here to save Nami to Usopp, and Usopp was like, oh, and he told Usopp that he could be the decoy, and he ends up saving Usopp's life from Enel and taking the hit himself on that ship. And we see him do it again. He cares so much more than he admits. He cares so much more for every single one of these crew members than he will ever admit to himself. And the fact that he is so ready to die for any of them at any given point just makes me love this character so much, because he is ready to sacrifice everything to give his family, to give his crew members a chance to live. And then the real Kuma appears, and I'll just say a little side note before I get into what happens next. Chopper, his panic, his devotion, and his fear for losing anybody, that instantly drives him to the point of taking 3 rumble balls to turn him into that monster that he was on Eni's lobby. The fact that he was so scared for everyone that he didn't think that he would be able to do anything other than that. Like, that point of desperation from Chopper was heartbreaking, and that he would resort to that even though it hurts him so much. just to be able to protect them. Just this crew and their devotion for one another and how scared they are to lose one another just hurts me so much. And then Kuma goes up to Zoro and asks him where he wants to go on a trip, and Zoro disappears. This is where things just got hard to stomach. Both reading and then watching it was hard, because Luffy sitting there so hurt and feeling absolutely helpless to do anything to help his crew, and then seeing Zoro disappear and he is just in shock, not knowing what to do. He's just like, where's Zoro? Tell me where Zoro went. Somebody give me an answer. And Sentomaru casually mentioning that, you know, he could be sent off flying for 3 whole days and nights, which still isn't good, because who knows where Zoro's gonna land. Who knows if he's still gonna be alive at that point. The amount of panic, desperation, and confusion that's going on when they see Zoro disappear, and then Luffy is trying to figure out like what he can do, what he's supposed to do, and then the Straw Hats start disappearing one by one by one. We get Brooke shielding Usopp and Sanji, saying that he's gonna protect them with his life, and then he gets vanished, he gets sent away. And Sanji starts to lose his mind over the fact that he has been sitting there and allowing his friends to disappear right in front of him, even though it's not his fault. He is just losing his mind. He's beside himself, thinking that he's done nothing, that it's his fault for letting this happen, because he's just sitting there, even though he is so injured from everything that's been going on. And he goes off and tries to attack Kuma, and he ends up getting even more injured. And then Usopp is trying to fight back and can't, and Kuma makes him disappear too. And then Sanji running at Kuma, and Luffy screaming at Sanji and telling him to run, and he's begging him, he's saying please, like, Sanji, please run, get out of there. Just that, the desperation in Luffy's voice, and seeing how badly he is just wanting his crew to run away, because he's so scared for him. He's seeing them disappear right in front of him, and he is just terrified and beside himself. He has no idea what to do, to the point where after Sanji vanishes, it's like Luffy can't even form the words to say anything, because he's not able to process everything that's going on. He's seeing his friends, his family disappear right in front of him, and he can't do anything. And Luffy starts trying to attack Kuma. He's going gear 2, trying to attack Kuma with everything he has left. And his attacks are so reckless and so rash, because he's going off of emotion and he's panicking, that the attacks are not helping and they're not effective, and Kuma is brushing him off like nothing. And he's also being ignored by Kuma. Kuma keeps ignoring him and going to his other Straw Hat members, which infuriates him and panics him even more, because he's not even getting a fair chance to defend his crew. Frankie ends up disappearing. Chopper ends up disappearing, and at this point, Luffy is just screaming at Kuma to stop. He's just screaming at him to stop. But of course, Kuma's not listening to him. One of the panels that hurt the most was when Kuma was going after Nami, and Nami turns to Luffy, and Luffy's just screaming out her name, trying to get to her, and Nami's reaching for him, and she's trying to say, Luffy, help me. Like she did all the way back in Arlong Park, and she disappears before she can even finish saying, help me. That destroys Luffy, just hearing one of his crewmates saying help and then them disappearing right in front of him, and he's not able to help them. And the same with Robin. He is trying to get to Robin as fast as he can, and Robin's reaching for him, screaming Luffy, and he can't get to her in time, and she disappears as well. And then it's just Luffy left. And we see Luffy just break down. He is on the ground, grabbing his head, just hitting his head on the ground and crying, sobbing. And he keeps saying, "What's wrong with me?" Fully blaming himself. He's taken all of this on his shoulders. He fully 100% blames himself for this happening, especially because he was the one who punched the celestial dragon. He knew what punching the dragon would do, and he did it, and now that the consequences are there and it's happening, he's sure to blame himself even more for doing that. And the breakdown that he has, that's what got me, is getting me again, because the way he just feels so helpless, and we don't really see Luffy cry. We don't really see him cry a lot. We've seen him angry, we've seen him determined, we've seen him happy, of course, we've seen him sad, but not broken like this. We haven't seen Luffy broken like this before, and I don't like it. I don't like seeing him like this. The fact that he was blaming himself and saying, "I couldn't even save a single one of them," breaks my heart. That scene is going to haunt me for a long time. And then Kuma comes up to Luffy, and Luffy is looking at him. He's so angry, but he's so sad, and there are tears in his eyes running down his face. And Kuma says, "I'll never see you again. Bye." And Luffy disappears too. And that's where this arc ends. That's what we're left with. That is how it ends. And I'm not okay. I do think Kuma had a plan. Because Sentomaru and Kizaru didn't know that Kuma was gonna be there, he wasn't supposed to be there, and he was acting against the government, against the admirals, makes me think that because of what Zoro did on Thriller Bark, Kuma gained so much respect for the Straw Hats or something that has made him want to keep that group alive, that he somehow saved them in a very sick and twisted way, because he could have said something. He could have said something to Luffy to not make Luffy suffer as much, because even if they are all still alive, now they're all separated. They're all who knows where across the world, and they're not together. We just got everyone back together, it seems. After the whole thing with Enies Lobby and post Enies Lobby, like, we just got everyone back. We got Robin back, of her finally accepting that she wants to live and then wants to be in our crew and has fully accepted that. Usopp finally came back and they reunited. Frankie joined the crew, Brooke joined the crew, and we had all those moments. And now they're gone. I know Kuma probably saved us, because if it was just up to Kizaru, they probably would have been killed. They probably all would have been killed right then and there, because they are not on the level of the admirals. That's another thing that scares me. As much as they keep talking about needing to be stronger, and they keep being shown how, in retrospect, how weak they are and how much stronger they need to become, it makes me worried. I'm so worried. So I do think Kuma saved us. He did us a solid. He did us a favor, because Rayleigh didn't get so up in arms about it. That I feel like Rayleigh would have had a different reaction if he would have seen them just being killed off one by one. So I think Kuma did end up saving us, although in a twisted way, because he didn't even explain anything to Luffy. He didn't explain himself. He didn't explain what he was doing. He just sent Luffy off. And I think that those parting words from Kuma to Luffy, the fact that he would never see him again because Kuma was scared for his own position. He knew he was gonna face consequences for doing this. So either they're going to, like, whatever machines inside him, they're gonna completely reboot Kuma so that he's not even gonna have any memory of the Straw Hats, or they're gonna kill him. I'm not sure, but that's just kind of the feeling I get, and I don't know if I'm okay with that. Because if Kuma did end up saving all of our lives, we owe that man a huge favor. Although he could have done it in a lot better way. I'm just saying. This arc was stressful. This arc was so much more stressful than I thought it was going to be. It was more emotional than I thought it was going to be. And it was so heavy and dark. And I wasn't expecting that. There was a lot of characters introduced, a lot of new themes introduced. There was more of the world that got expanded. We got bits of history here and there. We got history that we could have had but was completely ignored. That's fine. It's not, but it's fine. We got so much in this arc, even though it was such a small arc. There was so much jam-packed in here that it felt as long as some of the others. There was just so much that was happening. I definitely want to know more about Rayleigh. I want him either on our crew or on speed dial so we can call him up whenever we need him. Yeah, I think it would be cool if he was on our crew. I highly doubt that's gonna happen. Luffy needs to find out about Ace. Luffy has to find out about Ace, and he has to find out about Ace pretty soon, or else it's gonna be too late. That needs to happen, like, immediately, because I'm scared for Ace, because if this arc has shown me anything, I feel like nobody is safe. Not even our crew is safe, because our crew is all separated now, and they've been gravely hurt. So I definitely don't feel safe for Ace. That needs to happen. Also, I would love for Rayleigh to tell us just a little bit more about the history and the Will-O-Dee, because I would like to know that. But I know I'm not going to get that answer, and that's been pretty obvious now. And I'm probably not going to get that for a while, so it's fine. I'll resign to my fate. I won't get that answer anytime soon. But what needs to happen immediately in the next arc, Amazon Lily, is that our crew needs to be reunited. And I need to see where everybody in the crew is. I need to see them all, make sure they're okay. So that we can come back together and be okay. That's what I need right now. The themes of this arc were so dark and so heavy. But I'm so glad Oda talked about it and brought some light to the subjects, because, like I said earlier, human trafficking is a subject that doesn't often get explored enough, especially since it is such a big real world problem. It is nice to see that someone's not afraid to talk about it. Character wise, Sanji really shone in this arc for me. The attentiveness to not just his crew in general, but also just to Zoro, because he knows Zoro is still hurt and trying to recover. And his dedication and his loyalty to this whole entire crew is just inspiring, honestly. Like, he is so dedicated and he cares about all of them, even if he doesn't admit it. Same thing for Chopper. The fact that Chopper was so desperate to help everybody because he was scared to lose someone, that he went into a state that he hurts himself by being in, is incredible show of loyalty. But I'm worried about my boy. I want to know where my baby Chopper is. Zoro, of course, was just great. The way he was just ready to keep on taking the pain and just muscle through it. Shining person in this arc was Luffy. The growth we've seen Luffy go through, and we know how much he cares about his crew. He's becoming so much more attentive to them, to what they're going through, their personal state of being, like how he was able to recognize Zoro not being okay, how he was able to instantly recognize the fear that was taking over everybody, and recognizing that this was a situation they had to escape from, they couldn't fight their way out of, and he needed his crew to run away. It's such a huge moment for him. But at the end, his breakdown his breakdown is gonna stick with me for a long time, because I feel like this is just a very pivotal point for Luffy's character, for his growth, and how he's just going to be dedicating so much to being stronger, because he's seen the repercussions for what happens if he's not. And he's talked about it before, like on Eni's Lobby, and on Water 7 Eni's Lobby, and Thriller Bark, like it was brought up by Usopp that, you know, the crew had to get stronger, so not as much had to rest on Luffy's shoulders. And then we get this huge, massive power difference between our crew and the admirals and what they are up against. Because they have declared war on the world government, and they've declared war against the Celestial Dragons and the Navy now. So they literally have to become stronger if they are ever going to go into the new world. And I'm excited, but I'm scared. I'm so scared to read the next few arcs. I don't know if I want to do it. I'm gonna do it, but I'm scared, because I don't know what's gonna happen. Because this arc did not go any way I was expecting it to. No, it went south, sideways, up, down, all around, not straight the way I was expecting. It just went everywhere else. I'm always thoroughly, just constantly impressed with Oda's writing and the way he works with his characters, because this arc, without the characters, like the character work and the progression and conversations, the dialogue that we got from specific characters, like even bringing like Hachi in and Kami, without these characters, without the intentionality behind these characters and their movements, their growth, how they perceive things, how they're looking at things, the emotions that these characters carry in them, if they weren't done well, this arc wouldn't have hit that hard. This arc wouldn't have hurt so much. But because these characters are so well made, are so fleshed out, and we're so invested in them, this arc hurts us so much, because we know our crew's alive. I mean, I'm only like halfway through the series. Like, of course I'm halfway through the series. Anyways, like, I know they're alive because I still got a whole lot more to read about them. And I know they come up in later arcs. So it's like, I know they're not dead, but it didn't matter that they didn't die. This arc hurt all the same as if they did. Because of Luffy. Because of Luffy's reaction to them disappearing. That hurt so much. And it's all due to how Oda writes his characters and how Oda creates these situations for these characters. It's great. It's wonderful. But so painful. But I loved this arc. It hurt a lot. I spent a lot of it suffering. There was some highlights, like, of course, punching the Celestial Dragon. Like, that was a big highlight. There were some highlights in this arc. But a lot of it was pain. A whole lot of it was pain. I'm really looking forward to the next one, because I know it's going to pack a punch. I'm going to be eager to see where Luffy ends up, how he's faring, how he is dealing with things mentally, or if he just decides to ignore all the mental pain because he doesn't want to face any of it and is just going to focus on, like, going to Sabaody or something like that. I don't know. But we're going on to the next one. We're going on to Amazon Lily. So that is my review of Sabaody. I was not expecting this to be a long review, but here we are. I guess I am just long-winded by nature, so I'm very sorry. There's a lot of things I have questions on. I have a lot of theories about, like, the history, the Will of D, Rayleigh, his powers, and a lot of things. I have so many theories. I have so many questions that I want answered. And I have a lot of questions I want answered about Ace and his situation, and when when Luffy's gonna find out about it, because I feel like that's what this is building up to, especially with like how everything mentioning the war and the seven warlords and all of that was happening in the background of this arc, of like it was going on underneath of what everything our crew was doing. I know that war is coming. I know it's coming. I just don't know in what capacity. I don't know what our role is going to be in it. I don't know how Luffy's going to take it, to handle it, because I feel like right now Luffy is in a state where he absolutely cannot lose anybody. So no. Yeah, this arc was great. I as always I have more questions than answers. But thank you all for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this review. I will probably be doing another Read With Me video in the future, either through Amazon Lily, or if I'm already done with it at that point by the time this video comes out, then I will probably go on to the next arc afterwards. I'm not sure what the next one is. I just know the next one's Amazon Lily. If it's not of Amazon Lily, it'll be the arc after that. But yeah, so be on the lookout for any of those videos. If you want to check out my other videos, make sure you check out my channel. I did a Tomo-chan review last week, and I'll be doing a book review next week and something else in the future. I'm not sure yet, so be on the lookout for all of that. That is all for this video. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time, scholars. Bye!